it's me, Gina, and I'd just like to say welcome back to my kitchen. And in case this is the first time you are stopping by, my name is obviously Gina, and I am a wife and mother from the Midwest, and I like to cook fresh meals for my family every day, and sometimes I film the videos of the recipes and post them here on YouTube. So today we are going to be making tortitas de papa, which is a Mexican fried potato cake that is served with a very light tomato salsa that is not spicy at all over the top of it, and we usually eat it with a side salad, so that's what we're having for dinner tonight. And our tortitas are going to have cheese in them today, so I guess without further ado, that's our introduction. Let's jump right into our ingredients. So this half of the cutting board is what we're making the tortitas out of. So we have 5 potatoes, and these are just regular Idaho baking potatoes, but you can use whatever potato you want. I don't think that's a big deal. We're gonna need 2 eggs. We're gonna need some oil to fry them off in, so obviously like a vegetable oil or something that's suitable for frying, not olive oil. We're going to be needing some plain breadcrumbs, some black pepper, a little nor suiza, and in case this is the first time you're hearing me say nor suiza or whatever, this is powdered chicken bouillon, so we're using that to season it. And then I'm using queso fresco because it's a little bit of a drier cheese. It's not a very wet or a melty cheese, which means that when we fry our tortitas, the cheese is not going to like melt out of it. But another good one to use is queso cotija, because that's basically like Mexican Parmesan. So that's it. Super simple, super humble, that's a new word. Super humble, inexpensive, delish. And then on this side of the cutting board, we have everything for our salsa. So I am using 2, 4, 6, 7 tomatoes, but I'd say this is probably like a pound of tomatoes here. And these are nice red Roma ones because it's summer. Then we are also going to be using just a piece of this onion, 1 small can of tomato sauce, some marjoram, and some cumin seeds, actual seeds, not just cumin. Focus, there we go. And then we're gonna need 1 clove of garlic and some sea salt or whatever kind of salt you want to use. And then just as a side note, these tortitas de papa are kind of common in Mexico during Lent is what I've heard, obviously because they don't have any meat in them. And I've heard that people also put tuna inside of them, like mix it up in there or sometimes on top, but we are not doing that. These are just cheese and potato tortitas de papa. So anyways, I'm not going to do a prep video because this is super easy. I'm just going to go ahead and hop off camera for a minute. I'm waiting for both of our large pots of water to come to boil. Smaller one is for the tomatoes. The big one is for the potatoes. You can feel free to, traditional Mexican cooking, they like boil the potatoes all the time whole with the skin on, but that takes like an hour to boil. I don't know what the theory behind that is, but it seems to be pretty common. So in any case, I'm going to go ahead and peel these and chop them into very large chunks because I don't want them to absorb a lot of water. So I'm going to probably put each potato in like 3 chunks. And then that's literally it for our prep. There's no other chopping or anything at this point until we need to like slice off some onion. So hold up and I will be back to just show you what the potatoes look like before I put them in. Okay, so our water is boiling, and this is the size. I actually just put each potato into a quarter, so into 4 pieces. So we're gonna go ahead and just add this. You can salt the water if you want. It doesn't really matter, but I'm not going to do that, so I'm just putting them in. I stuck the tomatoes in that water as well over there. So basically I'm gonna cover this and let it come back to a, rolling boil, and then in about 15 minutes we'll check back because we're just waiting to see that our tomatoes are soft and nice and cooked through. And then obviously that the potatoes are cooked through as well. You want to be able to mash them, but you don't want them like aguada, like watery, because you want them to hold together when we add our other ingredients in. So there we go. That's that. I'm going to go ahead and return this to a boil. I'll be back when this stuff is done so you can check it out. I figured while we're boiling stuff, we can just get the remaining ingredients for the salsa into the blender. So for that, we are going to be using a can, and this is an 8-ounce can of tomato sauce. We're putting 1 clove of garlic, a piece of onion that we cut, so this is about a 1/2 inch thick, and I just sliced it in half so it's easier to blend it. And then I am going to measure out a tablespoon of marjoram and probably about 1/2 of a teaspoon of cumin seeds and salt to taste into here. I would say it'd probably be safe to start with like 1/2 of a teaspoon of salt and then just go from there, because everybody's salting preferences are different. So again, I'm just gonna go ahead and add 1/2 of a teaspoon of cumin seed, about a tablespoon of marjoram to here, and then we're just waiting for these tomatoes to be done so we can blend it up and move on to the next part. Our tomatoes are cooked. It has been probably actually only about like 10 minutes for these, but basically you don't want them totally like mush because you want to be able to remove them, and we are going to like further simmer the sauce afterwards. So we're just going to go ahead and remove these with a slotted spoon to our blender. And you're doing that because we do need to reserve a little bit of the water so that way we can blend it up nicely. Maybe just about a ladle full or so. That did not sound good. That sounded like somebody flushed something down the toilet. What's going on in here? Oh, you just went pee-pee? Good job. You never know with toddlers. Okay, so I'm not going to dirty a ladle for the sake of nothing. I'm going to start off with just that, like a little splash of water, and then we're actually going to dump this because after I blend it up, we're going to return it to this pan and reduce it down. So let me show you what it looks like when it's blended in just a second. Okay, she blended. And in our pot over medium heat, I'm just going to bring this, as you can see, it's pretty watery. So we are going to bring this to a simmer and then reduce it and then just let it go until it's a nice deep rich red color and it's reduced, I don't know, I would say probably just about a quarter of the way. I mean, you don't want it to be like paste, but your tortitas are going to be like crispy, delicious, like little potato pancake gems of goodness with cheese, and you just don't want to make them watery with watery salsa. So you could taste it for salt now, I guess. This needs a little bit more salt. Got a little whippy with the cumin too. I would say start off with a 1/4 teaspoon, maybe, if it's you guys making it. Still good though. So we're gonna go ahead and add I'll add like a 1/4 teaspoon more salt to this for now, and then let it reduce down. And we are still waiting for our potatoes. And I did go ahead and crumble up our cheese. So basically we're just waiting for these potatoes now. We gotta get them out, mash them up, mix everything together, and then we'll be frying. Our potatoes actually went for closer to 20 minutes because some of these pieces in here are kind of large. So I just wanted to show you, like, in case you don't know how to check if they're done. Obviously some of these are more done than the others because when I dumped them in, they kind of smashed up on their own. But basically, if a fork can just slide in there like that, it's done. Also, another tip, which I always forget to follow myself, is when you're boiling potatoes or beans or something that is hard and needs to boil through, once it comes to a rolling boil, put the lid on, like cracked a little bit, and then reduce it so it's just like not a rolling boil, like just above a simmer. Because if you have it at a rolling boil, the outside of the potato is going to cook faster than the inside of the potato, and then you end up with what I had here. So it's like the outside is like super mush and then the inside is perfect. So this is fine because we're mashing it, but if you intended to serve like boiled potatoes that were actually like circular or cubed in shape, you would definitely want to do what I just suggested. So geez, those children. I'm gonna go ahead and sit these to the side because we need to let them cool down a bit because we don't want that to melt our cheese. Everybody likes a nice pizzle of chisel. I just said that. I sounded like Snoop Dogg. A piece of cheese, like a whole piece of cheese inside of their tortitas. So there's that, and then let's check on our salsa. See, it's deepened much more in its red color, and it's smelling really good actually. So we're gonna let this go a little bit longer. And if you're wondering why I added the tomato sauce to the, to the fresh tomato puree. It's just because it gives it a different depth of flavor, and it allows it to become a nice rich red color faster, because if you're working with tomatoes that are like in the winter or something and they're not as ripe as the ones that I had, you end up with kind of a pinkish colored sauce, which is still equally delicious, but I think that this is more attractive. So that's why I add actual tomato sauce to the salsa. Probably gonna let this go for like another 5 minutes, and then this will be good to go. And I will be back when we're ready to start mashing our potatoes and adding in all the ingredients to make the potato patties. Okay, so our potatoes cooled down. They're still a little bit warm to the touch, but not very much. I used a potato masher to go ahead and mash it up. As you can see, it's a very dry mixture, and that's what we're going for. And I've made a well in the middle, and I cracked 2 eggs. So I'm just gonna go ahead and scramble them up in the middle. This is another reason why you do not want warm potatoes, because it will scramble your eggs. So I'm going to go ahead and now measure into the middle the rest of our ingredients. So we're going to start off with, let's just say, about a half of a cup of breadcrumbs, and we might need to add more in, so I just guesstimated. We will start off with let's see if I can do this. Hang on guys, 1 second. About a tablespoon of North Suiza, which is the chicken bouillon, and then I'd say probably about a quarter to a half of a teaspoon, probably closer to a half, of black pepper. And then I'm going to keep mixing this, wash my hands, mix it by hand until I feel like it's the consistency that is ready to add the cheese. So I will be back once it's better mixed, because there's no way that I can do this with one hand. Okay, so this is the texture that I'm talking about. You don't want it to be too wet or too dry, because you want to be able to shape it. It's really hard for me to explain this all to you guys with just one hand. So when you shape it, you want it to be able to stay together, but not crack around the edges. So this is going to be actually really perfect to make the tortitas, because they're like a little circle disc. So I went ahead and I've dumped in, this was a whole package of queso fresco. Probably gonna take a little bit more, about half of it, and then now I'm just gonna go ahead and mix this all in, and then we'll be ready to start forming them. Okie doke, so this is what our mixture looks like with cheese. I actually ended up putting almost the whole package in there, because who doesn't like a lot of cheese? So I'm using a 1/4 measuring cup to make sure they're all the same size. And this is what you're looking for. So it's just a little circular disc. Form it by hand. You don't have to like oil your fingers or anything. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This is a homemade rustic dish. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these all formed and get them on the plate, and then we will be back to fry them. Okay, so this is our pile of tortitas. The first ones are always the best because it's still the moistest at that point. But if they do get a little bit dry towards the end, you can just add a little bit of water to your hands if you wanted to, just to get smoother edges. So we got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And I probably could have made a 15th one, but I just chucked it because it didn't look like it was going to be the right size. So I'm going to go ahead and add about 1/2 inch of oil to this pan and heat it up, and we will start frying. Okay, so I have our oil in a non-stick frying pan, and this is actually probably more like 1/4 inch. And I'm hoping it's ready. It's been heating up. As you can see, like it's quivering, like you can see the shadow. That's how you know it's ready to fry usually. When you look at it and like the top of the oil actually shimmers itself. And let's also hope that I don't burn myself while I'm trying to fry something on camera. Yeah, it's ready. So when you put it in, you want to see a nice amount of bubbles around it like that. And we're just gonna fry them for probably about 2 minutes aside. And you don't want to overcrowd the pan. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm probably only gonna do 2 actually, because if I put a 3rd one in there, it might turn into a hot mess. And then I've actually got the rest of them in the freezer. I'm going to bag them after they're actually frozen enough to like put them in like a Ziploc bag, but I might pull a couple more out for my husband and his brother and run them over to his work because he had to leave. So anyways, we'll be back. Let me go ahead and close this up, and you know what? No, we can just stay on the camera so you can see. It's probably a little much oil as well. But there's nothing I can do about that because my children are in the sink. And this is what our consistency of our tomato salsa turned out to be after I finished simmering it, and it's cooled a little bit, so it's gonna be perfect for putting on top. All right, so I don't know if you could see, but the edges are starting to brown, so I'm gonna go ahead and flip one over. Be very careful. God, this is hard to do on camera. Perfect. And there we go. Please don't sprinkle water. Sorry, Olivia has decided to continue washing dishes, and I just totally screwed it up. All right, guys, I need to get off of camera to continue frying these up because we're gonna have a bunch of mistakes like that if I keep trying to film. So we'll be back with the finished product. Okay, guys, this is what the finished tortita de papa looks like. It's nice and crispy. The first two didn't turn out that good because I was trying to flip them on camera. So I'm just going to continue to fry these up. They just are nice, crisp potato patties with cheese. After these are done, I will probably just take a picture of the final plate with the salsa and everything because my husband is not even home to do the taste test. He had to go to work, so... I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, go ahead and subscribe. Thank you for stopping by. And if you don't mind, check out one or two of these other videos that I will place somewhere here. So, thanks. Have a great day.